Welcome to the Old Fat Coach Podcast, featuring Russell Stutely, world leader pressure point fighting, national boxing coach, Cambodia, prepared to get not only your martial arts boxing world rocked, but your whole world too.
Well, today I'm joined by none other than my old mucker, OCFM International Coach, wit, raconteur, ne'er-do-well, and one of the top martial artists you could ever wish to meet, the one and only John Andrews. What you, John? Great to have you here.
Too nice.
Now, John, I've got to ask you this, because you being a BJJ Black Belt, plus high dan grade in Jiu-Jitsu, plus lots of other stuff as well, I know the 3 locks, and I know the choke, and I know the strangle, and I know you do too. But lots of other people tell me that they know loads of locks, and I don't get it. I only know 3.
Well, we're a bit behind the times, you see, because there are loads of locks and strangles and stuff out there. No, I have this conversation so often. It's lovely with the guys we train. It is the beauty of the simplicity of teaching it. Of how do you do a lock, and you can point to any lock, and you can put it into one of those 3 categories, and then they say, but how do you do your strangle? I think, well, it's like this, and what does that do? Well, that shuts the blood off. Let me see. So that's the strangle then. Doesn't matter how you do it. We have the same conversation over and over again. Now, I mean, I'm assuming the people that watch this know the 3 locks, 1 strangle, 1 choke.
Let's assume that nobody does. Let's assume that everybody. Well, rather not know. Let's assume that everybody knows more than 3 locks.
There are, there are combinations as well, which you've got to allow for the combination.
Well, I do say you can perm 2 from 3.
Well, there you go. You see, you can put any number of these together once you've got them there.
But for those who don't know the 3 locks, the ones that know lots more than the 3, would you mind giving them the 3 locks? So they've got an extra 3 locks to their arsenal.
This is it. So the way we teach it is everything falls into the category of it's either hyperextension, which is nice, so your arm bars and your knee bars and anything that says bar after it, bar black sheep, all these other things. Oh God, I'll get shot for that. Is an extension lock. If you want to teach it, I get done for practicing in the office, because I sit there and I go, and that's an extension lock this way. So and that, there are so many ways, but people work so hard to get that entry into the lock, which is where all the combinations and all the movement comes. We then do the opposite, of course, which is compression. So, your basic wrist locks, and a number of the other shoulder locks or compression. Although it's difficult on a rotational joint. But your compression lock is anything that squeezes, here we go, hang on, in the camera, anything that squeezes it so that it closes too tightly.
Yeah.
Normally you'd stick a bar in the middle so that when you squeeze it, it separates open. But that's all variations on the compression. And then there's rotation. So we've done hyperextension, hypercompression, and rotation.
Yeah.
So anything a rotational lock works against, normally works against the ball and socket joints. So you're looking at the shoulder, you're looking at the wrist, which is more or less a ball and socket, although it's a hinge as well.
Yeah.
The ankle, the hip. And so your rotation lock works, and then you do your combinations of those, you mix them together. But everything can be broken into hyperextension, hypercompression, or hyperrotation.
Yeah.
That's 3 locks. Now, anything I do to the wrist, I can do to the ankle. Anything I do to the elbow, I can do to the knee. Anything I do to the hip, I can do to the shoulder.
Is that almost like saying that the arm's the leg, the leg's the arm?
Yeah, but you look really silly upside down like that.
Right, yeah. Because that's another one when you say to people the arm's just the leg and the leg's just the arm, they look at you like you're an idiot. I go, well, you're not wrong, but...
But with that in mind...
Can I just point out...
But yeah, and that's it. I mean, people spend years training to get different ways to reach these positions, and then say, yeah, but it's a different lock. Well, no, it's the same lock. You've spent years training to get to that one position where you can apply that lock in a specific way, which is fantastic. And there are millions of different ways of getting there. But the lock's the same because that's how the joints work.
See, that to me is the beauty of understanding something that well that you can make it that simple, because you can only really make it that simple if you truly understand it.
Yeah.
Because you could then go to say, well, look, here's that joint done whatever way, whether it's like this way or this way. Okay, let's start at that and work backwards to where we were. There's another way of training it.
That's it. Yeah. Start with the end in mind. There was some thinker bloke said that, didn't he?
We do the same with striking. We go, right, this is where we want to be. So this is the punch that we want to be landing. It's what I teach my boxers or whatever. Now let's work out how we got there. So we go backwards from where we want to be and work out all the different ways of getting there. Then they suddenly find out that there's actually 1,000,001 ways of getting there.
Yeah.
And then it starts to eventually.
Sooner or later, it clicks.
One day. Normally when it's too late. But to me, that's the fascination with locks, is that there are so many ways to achieve those 3 locks. And unfortunately, people get bogged down in, I'm going to learn this lock and then this lock. And this is and each variation, depending on the art that you're practicing, seems to have a different name and then another name. And it's the same lock. And it's the same lock.
We have that. I mean, we talk about the Kimura and the Americana and the omoplata and all these other beautiful things. And you say, well, it's a rotational shoulder lock.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. There's 3 different techniques here. No, they're doing the same thing. Yeah. And it's how you get there. It's do I apply the pressure with my arms or with my legs? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm doing this to the joint. If you look at what you're achieving, how you achieve it is a million ways of doing that. But what you're trying to achieve.
I remember when you used to come up and help me, Phil, Bart, and Amit. You'd say, well, doing that with my arms, but you can do it with my legs, look. You go, an arm and a leg. I do it with my arm and your leg, and your leg, my arm. And if that won't go, I can put my arm in there, or I put your arm in there, and you go, like that. And those sort of things are light bulb moments, and which is what I hope people get from this. That light bulb moment of understanding about locks. That there's a million ways of doing it, but there's only 3. Honest. I
mean, don't get me wrong. You can shear a bone. If you put the bone shears in, you can strip a muscle with the cutters. And the slices. But they're doing the same thing, just away from a joint.
Yeah.
So you're doing exactly the same move as you would do, on a joint, just away from a joint, you know, and you go halfway between. You go, well, hang on a minute.
Snap their forearm with a crush lock or something like that.
Yeah. And again, you're doing exactly the same thing as you would do on any rotational joint or a simple lever, just in a different location.
Yeah. But again, once they understand that, they can apply that not just on the arm, can't they?
Again, on the leg, on the neck, you know. I mean, people talk about the neck and, it's fantastic new entry to do this, that, and the other. And I'm getting, well, if you've twisted it and your vertebra are twisted, it's a rotational lock. It's a neck crank. No, but I'm pushing it so far forwards that it's a compression lock. Oh, yeah, so, or I'm pulling it so far back that
but it's getting people to think that way, isn't it? It's like before, we've spoken many times before about principle based or technique based. And if you got the principle right, you actually learn more techniques than the guy learning techniques.
Well, you can make them up on the fly if you got the principle, you know, because you'll find yourself in positions where you should never be, you know, and then think, ooh, if I push this way, that'll break, you know. How can I push it? I'm going to have to use my forehead, you know, because I've got both my arms wrapped up. You know.
But at least it broke.
You know, we teach, and it's not a nice one. We teach an ankle lock, a rotational ankle lock, when everything else has gone pear-shaped. They've got full mounted, everything's going bad. So you pick your bum up and you sit on their ankle. You know? You know, and you're thinking, but that shouldn't work. Well, it does. You sit down, you slide sideways, and you've got a rotational ankle lock. You know? You just apply the pressure differently.
I remember it all too well when you came up and got all those lot with it.
Poor old Stevie was there. It was lovely, brilliant.
But it's thinking like that, though, isn't it? That to me is what makes the martial arts so wonderful. That it's outside the box thinking, if you like. You just say, well, I understand the principle of that ankle. It's there. The only thing I can get it with is if I lift my arse up and stick it down on there. Done. Right, got 'em. And you go, wow. Because it's the sort of thing that most people would never dream of.
Yeah.
But once you understand the principles, you might look at it and go, what can I get that with? No, the only thing left. I'll have a go.
I mean, what did we find the other day? My instructor beats me up regularly at BJJ. He's technically superb, and he is brilliant. And he'll wrap me up in 76 ways from Sunday.
Yeah.
And I got caught with an omoplata. And I'm sitting there going, now what can I do? What can I do? I could try and escape. Now he's blocked all my escape routes. And then they drop the foot in front of your head, put it under your chin, so everything locks into position. I thought, spleen 6, rotational ankle lock. So with free hand, I grab his foot, I put my forehead on spleen 6 and lean into it. So I got my body weight behind it. All of a sudden, I say, thank you very much. That'll do me a tap.
Superb. But again, it's that thinking outside the box, isn't it?
Yeah. But as you say, it's having that understanding that technique hasn't got to be done cleanly the way the technique has to be done. You're looking at the result you want to achieve and figuring out how to get there from where you are.
It's like people were striking. They go, which part of the fist should land on the when you're punching somebody? Which part of the fist? I go, the bit that lands.
Yeah, the first bit.
As long as it lands, I don't care what you hit them with. Is it hard? All right. Ideally, blah blah blah. But because I don't want people to get bogged down in exactness, so to speak. Although we're always trying to search to be as perfect as possible, knowing that if you sometimes people are searching for that, and it gets in the way of just doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and like you just said with your example, we're suddenly going, oh, spleen six, put my head on there, do that, pull that. If you're searching for perfection, you wouldn't have time to think of doing spleen six and put your head on it. Stuff.
You think, well, I've got to get out of this, but I can't get out the way I meant to because, you know, he's blocked the route. Okay, well, that's it. You've lost then. I could do shit.
And that's the outlook that I want people to start to think about, is just because you thought, or you've been taught even, that's the only escape route, or it's been blocked, my only escape. It may not be your only escape route.
Yeah.
There may be something there which you may get as long as you understand these principles, rather than just because if you only know the technique, and the only technique to escape that hold is X, and it's gone, you are finished. You have to tap out.
That's it. There's no follow on from X, because there isn't a Y or a Z. Because I've only learned X, and it's just a number of technique. It's not a path.
Yeah, and you see it all the time, and I witness it all the time, and you know, we both for years and years we just principles. I know, but sometimes you just think to people, come on, please understand it.
But it's been sold so much across so many martial arts that I need to learn this technique or that technique. That's it. And you know, and trying to make sure your balance is right and your foot placement's right, and you're not rotating your foot, you're pointing the right direction. Or you can learn to walk and then go for a walk in the woods, in the city, in the wherever, you know, and experience where you're walking, rather than going, oh, I've got to concentrate on my walking still.
Yeah, and correct as you go.
Yeah.
What I like to call training on the job.
Yeah.
You know, if you were, for example, if you're going to go and say, right, I'm going to walk 20 miles a day for 10 weeks for charity or whatever, I don't know. And then you say, right, I've got to spend 3 years training for it. Or you can just say, well, I'll start now. I'll just walk. And then the walk is my training. Yeah. It might take me 10 hours a day and maybe 9 hours tomorrow. And, you know, and eventually you can
spending 3 years practicing to get ready to walk. Yeah,
go and do it. That's it. And off you go. It's like, I remember my uncle was a long distance runner. He did things like run across America and like broke things like 17 world records in one race and silly crap. I mean, just like ridiculous. Guinness Book of Records, all sorts of stuff. And I said to him, Malcolm, I said, how did you run so far? He said, we just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Oh, yeah. Well, so that's one way of doing it. And that was it. And it is that simple. He brought it down to that basic principle of just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and that's it.
That's it. You keep covering distance. There you go.
No, he's so right, isn't he? How did you run that far? Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Yeah. How did you do it? Just kept doing it. And to me, that struck a chord then of everything. If you want to learn something, you just go and do it. Don't spend forever trying to train up to get ready to do something. Just
the only couple of things, you know, skydiving and driving, you know, I'd learn first.
A couple of caveats in there. I'll give you that one. A general rule, non-specific. But it's the same with me with striking and stuff like that. Yeah, you want to be as perfect as possible. Of course, we all try to get the perfect technique. But the important thing is just throw it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been a long time since I heard anybody say it. And I remember a good few years ago, Bernard Hopkins, world champion, was talking about his backhand, and he was explaining it to somebody anyway. It was an MMA fighter, I think it was, and they said, "How do you know when to throw it?" He said, "You just throw it." So if you spend forever trying to get the right time, you'll never throw it. Just throw it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be super powerful. Just throw it. And that was something that we knew, but it was nice to hear somebody as great as Bernard Hopkins say, just throw it, because it's that thing of, if you wait and wait, same with grappling, isn't it? If you're waiting and waiting for the perfect opportunity to go and try to move or transition or whatever, you've probably swept or been caught before you can do it anyway.
You've missed it. Yes.
Yeah. Wait for it, you miss it. So we have the same thing when we talk about reactions as well. I get some of my fighters say, "Well, I've got good reactions." Well, you're going to need them then. Because if you're relying on them, you're going to need them. Do you think it might be an idea to be moving your head anyway, just in case, rather than waiting for a punch to come and then move out the way? Just throw it out there. And it's these things of having, like with grappling, you're not going to just stand there and wait, are you? You're going to be moving, doing stuff, anticipating, and all that. And it's that sort of thing I wanted to get a little bit deeper into, that things on techniques, although we talk about principles, but the fact that to really truly do it right, you've got to be anticipating what's coming next rather than reacting all the time. Because if you're reacting all the time, you're probably on the receiving end.
Yeah, you're losing. You're losing if you're spending your time reacting. I mean, we do exactly what you talked about with the striking, with the grappling. We'll say, all right, I want to end with this finish, because this is my favorite finish. I've got a high percentage, and it works. Right, let's work the steps back from there. You take a lot of the principle, I suppose, from in the Moscow Olympics, the Russian fencing team used a basic principle that said somebody's first response to an attack is always their first response.
Yeah.
And so you feed a line, you feed your feint, you feed your whatever, in the knowledge that they're likely to respond the same way to the same stimulus.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much. Now I've got a learned path. And then so you feed and you feed and you feed until finally you reach the point where you think, well, all right, I know if I give X, you respond with Y, I finish with Z. Thank you very much. It's ever so easy and ever so simple. But it's the hours of drilling and practice of doing that to figure out what the most likely response is. I was very lucky. I went to I did my first BJJ comp in 2000, and I'd never done BJJ before that. I did a couple of classes, but I went in completely because it was a competition format, and I came to it from traditional jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I turned up, and I was in the old fat knackers category. So we were in the heavyweight masters category. So and of course that was at the end of the day. I showed up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and my fight was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So right. I sat there watching and sleeping on the benches and watching some more. And I noticed that the floor plan, the basic plan was get your takedown. Normally, to get the takedown, you got put into guard. So you then pass the guard, take side control, take mounted. If you could get it, look for a submission.
Yeah.
So you already had a basic structure to the plan of what they were going to do. And it's at that point I'm thinking, well, if I use Rota Jimmy, the strangle, the back choke, I can set that up in standing, and then I can either attempt to throw, or if they throw me, great, and then they're going to pass my guard to the side position, which is where I want to put them. So they just walk into the trap effectively. And I was very lucky. The guy did exactly as everyone else had done, because that's what they've been taught to do. And I went for my takedown, he blocked that, he passed my legs, he came to the side, and he woke up on the floor.
Yeah.
Because everything he'd done right. I've blocked the throw, I've done this, I've done that, I've done the other. But he hadn't realized that step one was, guess what? You've got your neck held before you start. And so all the rest of it is negated. Forget it, don't do it. Just do something else. And it's that learning the movements, it's learning the path, it's knowing what the likely next step is, and being ready for it. A friend of ours went out to Thailand to do his Thai boxing out there, and he said they learned jab, cross, kick, and he said that was their lead. And we're back. He learned jab, cross, turning kick, and that was their lead. It's back now. And everything came off of that, and then all they did was they practiced what would be the counter and what's the counter to that, and so they walk in and of course they go jab, cross, boom, boom, leg goes across and they get caught. Thank you very much. I know my immediate response is, and it's drilled. Oh, it's very, very clever, and you're just setting up that path. That pathway to performance, but it must be the same in boxing, as you said. You start with your end in mind and you work backwards. You say, well, if it does that, I get hit.
To me, it's the simplest way of doing it. The end in mind is to land a great big one on their jaw and knock them out. So, which position do you need to be in to land your favorite punch, basically? And what angle, what distance, everything else, and then you just step back from there. But what you said about the Moscow thing and the fencing team, and what you said about first responses, their normal response, is so true. Which is, I tell my guys to do it is you give them a present and you take it away. Right now the present may be a feint of a punch, it may be your head going forward that you're inviting something because you know that their hand drops slightly when they throw a jab, the backhand might drop, you've seen them do it, the jab and the backhand drop. So you invite the jab knowing that you're going to follow up with a check hook or whatever it may be. All of these things you just practice because and throwing the feint, like you say, and you say, what do they normally do? If you're throwing a jab and they block it, they always block it this way, then you've got a gap round the side or around the other side. And it's those things that people call them clever boxers, and I agree. And there's levels to it, of course, and there's levels at the highest level as well. There's levels to be able to do that and spot it. But some people go their whole career without realizing that at all.
Yeah. And imagine how good they could have been.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what gets me sometimes when I'm already good. I don't need to know anymore. No, please.
Yeah. You could be great for longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just get a little bit better even. I mean, at the highest levels, 1 or 2% is a huge amount.
Yeah, you're half a second quicker. That's a lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, we simple little things like where your shoulder is and stuff like that when you're throwing a punch. And so many people, their shoulder is too far back, and there's times when it needs to be, of course, but when you get that shoulder turn and you get in that extra 5 to 10 inches of reach and that extra bit of speed because your arm hasn't traveled yet, your glove hasn't actually traveled yet because you turned it and then it goes. So you're not punching from a long way away, so you got more chance of it landing, and you got the extra reach, and you got a bit more power, and there's all those little things. You can please just listen for once. Okay, I can hit from here. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, go on then.
You get the same sort of thing in grappling, don't you? When people say, "I'm really good at juji," and you go, "Actually, you could get there a bit quicker if you did it like that." I get it anyway. Okay, that's good, man. Yeah, whatever. But it's a shame because it's that blinkers again.
It is. People can't, You know, why would you not want to improve? And we're really lucky, you know, as martial arts in general, everybody's there to try and improve.
Yeah.
Which is great. You know, it doesn't matter how. I always figure, you know, if I get beaten up by a younger, fitter, stronger, better grappler, or an older, fatter, slower, but better grappler, it just means I've got to practice more and get better, which is what I'm going to do if I win or lose or whatever. I'm still going to go to the gym and practice because I love it.
Yeah, and to me, that's the beauty of martial arts is that you can always improve. There's always something else to learn. There's always more to learn, and there's always somebody better as well. Yeah. And you can always learn from them. And you know, we trained a lot, and there's always this. Everyone's a student. Everyone's a teacher. Everyone's learning. Everyone's teaching it all at the same time. It's sort of everyone's learning off each other, bits here, bits there. To me, that's what makes it. That's what makes it. Normally, we're learning off you, of course. But
no word. You know, I was chatting to a guy and he was telling me how to put weight through my body, which I thought was fantastic. You know, how do you make yourself as heavy as you can be? And I thought that was a great lesson. Yeah. But Richard Feynman, he was saying, you know, he said, you know, the best way to learn is to teach it. So, you know, you learn more by teaching.
For those who don't know, I will explain this one. We were doing some stuff, and I was talking about heavy hand, and I said to John, oh, that's quite, I like that, blah, 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 yeah, it's good on the strike. So I said, you do heavy hand, heavy arm, heavy elbow, heavy leg, heavy butt. You do heavy anything, John. Yeah, oh, I like that. A few weeks later, we're doing John's showing us some grappling stuff, and he's putting some weight on me. I go, oh, John, don't put any more on. He said, are you calling me a moron? I said, no. And if there's more, and I let out an expletive, he said, are you calling me a effing moron? I went, no. And then there's some more. Ping, ping, ping go my ribs. Anyway, I said to John, how on earth did you manage to put that much weight through, blah, 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 and all that weight bearing? And that's where it came from. And it was one of those moments for me as well. And but it's just to me, it just sums up martial arts. You in particular is that you take one little principle and do exactly what it says on the tin, apply it to everything. I know, I'll apply it to that. Suddenly, crush 4 of my ribs.
But it was. But they're such lovely ribs.
You can hear them go ping, 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 ping. And then your face goes, I think they ping down. You think? Would you mind getting off, please? They do hurt rather a lot. But it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Yeah, but those sort of things are what makes training so much fun. And you know, just and learning, because I mean, how often do you laugh your head off while your ribs are popping? I mean, and it's things like that you just crack up. I mean, for those who don't know, in my gym we had a sign up on the wall. I was just playing with his leg and then it fell off. I was just playing with his arm and then it fell off. Just hear John.
It wasn't my fault. Just, in my defence, he was trying to kick me at the time.
Good point. Well made. But those sort of learning moments where I mean, there was another time with me, you and Powerhouse Pete, taking it in turns just to damage the other one on the floor with 2-on-1. And saying, what about this? Does this really hurt? Yeah, actually, it really does. So, but it was just hilarious time.
Gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. But,
can we go a bit deeper on a couple of little subjects? If you got a few more minutes, do you mind?
Yeah,
John?
yeah.
It's like,
absolutely, yeah.
obviously, you being a BJJ Black Belt, obviously it's a very high level of grappling. We all know that. Okay, so that's beyond question, right? But
there are some people that are really good. Yeah, BJJ Black Belt means you just kept going. You just didn't give up.
yeah, but you still got to be at a high level, John. I mean, come on, we know that. I mean, it is a high level, and for those who are just starting out in the grappling, or maybe at the blue belt level, that sort of level, going towards purple, that sort of thing. What's the best advice you can give them other than just keep going?
Just keep going. That's it. Tap early and often. We lose people because they are parada. They're going at it as if it's the world championships. And you think that's fantastic, but what are you learning? Yeah, it's great to get that conditioning and that mindset, and I've got to fight really hard all the time, but it's learning. And these are the people that fall into traps. These are the ones we've just discussed. You lead, you offer something, because they've trained so hard without thought that they're going to go for this the next day. They're going to go for this. They're going to make that progression, and you can walk them so calmly down the line. What advice do you offer to any of these people? Listen to the guy teaching you, or the lady teaching you. They've got there because they've kept going, and they've learned it, and they've got to impart.
And they listened on the way. Yeah, exactly.
YouTube is amazing. It's an amazing tool, and if you understand the principles, like we talked about, if you understand the principles of what you're doing, I mean, we talk about the principle for control, for when you're doing body control. Your center of gravity wants to be lower than their center of gravity. And say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, as long as my hips tend to be lower than their hips, I'm all right. You can do that in most places, but you can't in mount, obviously. So mount's the least stable.
Yeah,
which is why it's the highest ranked position. So, but there are ways then to maintain that, and you learn that you can. If your base is lower than their base, they've got to lift you over them to move you. So it's understanding that, but that's the principle.
But to do that, of course, they've got to have that mindset of learning rather than going as hard and as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And we have the same with the striking guys. They don't want to learn because they think they already know, or they think that if they go harder and faster, they're doing all right. Well, there's times to go hard and fast, but there's also times to go, hold on a minute, it's learning time.
Yeah.
And like I say, you can lead in. I mean, the amount of people you just draw into walking onto a punch or whatever, it happens all the time.
A lovely story. Training with yourself. When we were doing some sparring with some karate guys, and don't get me wrong, there are some great karate guys out there. But these ones were there, and they were fighting. Head on the chest, throwing punches, and I said, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Well, I'm fighting." So, okay, but we're sparring here. You can up the pace a little bit. We've got gloves on. I'm punching as hard and as fast as I can. You go, you're in trouble there. You you need this lesson. You need because it's not working for you.
On that particular day, I had a guy with his head on my chest, walloping away, and I was letting him hit me like that. Unbeknownst to me until I looked over, and I glanced over, and John had the same. He had somebody doing the same to him, sort of look at each other, go, "What's going on?" It was rather amusing.
And these guys had obviously been taught that was how you do it.
Yeah.
They both did the same thing. Well, just throw as many punches as quickly as you can, as hard as you can, and you'll be fine. That works if you can throw a punch. You know, if you can't, you've got nothing else going for you.
No,
It's not going to work.
And unfortunately, my guy, I gave him a little tap on the. He went to be sick, didn't he? Your guy just collapsed. And my guy went to be sick. Never saw them again. But we, in striking, it's also highly important that people learn the right way, because in grappling you can pay a huge penalty because a break can be a life-changing event. A knockout may be, a good solid punch to the body may not be, but it can drop you. Maybe a good liver shot will drop you, but it's not a life-changing event. Or you get winded, it's not a life-changing event. But a good knockout could well be a life-changing event. And these people have got to understand that sometimes calm it down, learn, and you will get better much quicker.
Yeah.
There's times to, I remember whenever we've been training, the amount of times you say to people, slow down, calm it down, slow it down a little bit.
I mean, you either need your body going at 100 miles an hour while your brain's calm so that you're still in control, or you need your body going calmly while your brain's going at 100 miles an hour to figure out what the hell you're going to do next. But you can't have both.
No. You get, it's about time I say to people, just slow it down. You can think much faster than you move.
Yeah, there you go.
Just try thinking fast. That'll probably help. Huh? That'll do.
God,
it's said the parallels though between the striking and the grappling are all there when you look at it from a principle point of view, which is what I hope people get from this, is that you've got black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Obviously, I know you're striking as well, but others may not know. But the parallels between the grappling and the striking are all there. The principles are the same.
Yeah.
And it's.
I mean, 45 degrees is a lovely one.
Yeah.
You say, well, hang on a minute. You're trying to explain to people, they say, but I keep getting caught on flat on my back. I'm doing this, that, and the other. I say, well, why are you flat on your back?
Yeah.
If you were fighting somebody stood up, you wouldn't stand square off to them. And say, well, punch me like this, and I'll punch like this. You turn out. You angle up. So why aren't you doing that on the ground? Why aren't you on one hip, and turning into it immediately so that you've got the right. If you can do one, so long as it can be explained using the parallels, you're fine.
And it's just getting people to get that mindset right of just allowing the principles to come out, if you like, in their training. Like that 45. I mean, the amount of times you say to people, I've had people come in to learn MMA type striking. I know a little bit about grappling and stuff, but I'll say to them, same thing. You wouldn't be flat on your back. You wouldn't be flat on your back. So why would you be square up to strike?
Yeah.
And then if you do go flat on your back, why do you think you can hit hard? And then likewise from on top, if you squared up, if you're striking, you wouldn't square up to somebody to try and hit them hard. You'd have however slight, you'd have a movement in your shot. So if you're on top or in guard or whatever, that you're in their guard. So why wouldn't you have your shoulders rotated in such a way that you can land with both hands really hard rather than both hands not so hard?
Yeah.
And it's again, getting people to.
I mean, we were so lucky. In 2004, we managed to drag you in to come and give a seminar for us back then, and
That was great fun.
that was we talked about light bulb moments. That was it for us. Yeah, it made such a difference that suddenly there were all these things that we didn't know we were already doing.
Yeah.
And then being able to be shown all the other players, and understanding, I can add this to here, I can add this, instead of just using it in this position, I can use it in all these positions. And that makes such a difference. That really does. But you've got to have that wanting to fail.
Yeah.
Almost, accepting that you're gonna fail. I know I'm gonna get it wrong. I know what I'm doing isn't right yet. It's that Icarus moment. I'm gonna reach for the sun. My wings are gonna fall off en route, but I'll get bloody close.
Yeah.
And then you've as a martial artist, my instinct is to pick myself up and go, I've got to learn more of that. That was brilliant. I got battered. Rather than going, oh, well, hang on a minute, I'll go back to my safe pond where I know what I'm doing, and not expand my knowledge, not get better in whatever way I can. And that makes
a shame that people do that. I remember that day so well, because I was, for those who don't know, I was on the verge of just trying to cancel this. I was so fed up with one after another. It was like Groundhog Day for me. And I'm in the car park at John's place, really contemplating, like saying, I'm not here. And there's a knock on the car door window. John, hey, come on. All right, come in. So, well, let's see what it's like. Have a cup of tea. And then going there, and go, hold on, this is completely different. These people are really good. They know what they're doing. This is going to be great fun. And it was. And it was just funny. It was great for me as well, because you suddenly had a whole bunch of people who really knew what they were doing.
Yeah, we were lucky. We came from we started in a good place, and just hopefully kept getting better at it. So, and that's down to yourself entirely, which is where we need to be. But
the first thing, one of the things there was, I was watching you lot warm up, and I was thinking, flipping out, these lot good. I like what they're doing. I'm smiling to myself, and I can't remember the name of the guy with you at the time. It will come back to me. I'll remember his name. But you were talking about the takedown you do. You go, knock something over. Where you go behind, you pull on the hip, and you were saying about they're landing on the back, how to get on the front, and we were doing that pull push thing. And your face was, I know that. Why didn't I think? It was one of those ones, and all of a sudden you took that and you just, all of a sudden you're doing another million different things. You say, come here, you're doing this other takedown, all sorts of stuff. I go, he's already got it. It was just one of those moments where you just go, that's it. And then the next week you came up to Powerhouse Peaks.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
And all of a sudden you knew it all. And I go, what the hell? How about this?
It was the light bulb moment. You go, of course you do it like that. Why wouldn't you do it like that?
But it was just so great because, I mean, for those who don't know, when I first met up with John and his lot, they were really, really good. And then a week later, they were even better. And you go,
you realise how rubbish we were before.
That's ridiculous in a week. And it was one of those ones you go, I've got to learn from this guy. Because I was always like this, like that with the grappling stuff, as you know. I would say, one time thinking, it's really good. And I think, what a load of old cobblers. It's really good. What a load of old cobblers. And I was at the lot of old cobblers stage. And then met up with John and go, okay, now you're going to be severely crippled if you at least have a modicum of this knowledge.
Let's bring it right back to where we started with it. As soon as we'd shown you there were 3 locks, one strangle and one choke, you went, I can do those now.
I know them.
I know them. I like do them from here and here and standing up and on the ground and on the top and on the bottom.
It's the same one, isn't it? Looking for somebody saying, yes, it is. It's the same one, isn't it? This is the same as that, isn't it? It is, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, all your PBDT stuff, the protective stuff that you do, you know, all when you're putting the wave into the arm lock, into the shoulder, you know, suddenly everything works. And that's great. That works nicely.
It's just great fun when it all comes together, you know. And for those that do grappling, carry on but learn some striking. And those that do striking, carry on but learn some grappling, because they do complement each other as long as you just look at it from principles and enjoyment and learning.
Yeah.
Not my striking will beat your grappling, or my grappling will beat your striking. I'll take you down, and no, you won't. And all that.
Yes, that sounds like a really good idea as a format for a fight program. If only we'd thought of that, you know.
I can't imagine that could work, mixing up martial arts.
That'll never take off.
That'll never catch on. So forget it. That'll never work, John. No one would ever go for that.
No, we'll go for that.
Right, we've come up to the towards the end, John. Is there anything you want to, any pearls of wisdom you want to throw out there?
Well, let me throw out some pearls here. Practice. Make sure you practice your Reiki. Keep your harmony, you know, and all your stuff.
Have great war.
Have great war. gotta have good war. If you've got that, then you're doing really well. And don't forget there are, you know, millions of techniques that you have to learn, and you can only learn them in a certain order, and they only work if you're a 95th Dan god.
Yes. And also, you only get to learn the new techniques once you get to a certain grade, and you pay for it.
Yeah, you've got to pay extra, obviously, for all of
or you could just understand 3 locks, a choke, and a strangle.
And a strangle. One of the beauties, and I know it's a beautiful thing. And it's I suppose the thing that, I mean, I love the grappling. I've always loved the grappling side of it. Yeah. You look at any mammal across the whole animal kingdom, you know, there's the rough and tumble from squirrels to bears to big cats to whatever. Everything has a roll about. And the idea, when I walked into a BJJ class from TJJ, it was the fact that everyone was doing the same thing. You had your black belts practicing the same technique as the white belts. They're all doing, you know, don't get me wrong, they're all doing it slightly differently, and they're all learning slightly different aspects of what they're doing. You know, the white belt's learning to go through the really gross motor function of how to get into these positions, and the black belt's making sure his weight and pressure's in exactly the right place. You know, so that everything works slightly differently. And that I thought was fantastic. You know, there was no segregation, or you need to learn, you can only learn this, you can only learn that. You know, and but it was what you said. You know, you look at your world champion boxers. They learn 4 punches, and guess what? They still practice those same 4 punches every single day.
They've thrown millions of them in their career. And they still find time to practice them every day. And there's a reason.
There's a reason there, isn't it?
But to me, that's the beauty of something like the grappling, doing it that way, and the striking done the same way, where you could walk in a room and all the boxers are doing, let's say, jab cross. The brand new guy is just sticking his arms out one after another because he's only just turned up, still doesn't know what he's doing. And at the other end of the room, you've got the pro boxer who's so smooth and slick, and he's got all the footwork, the movement, and everything else going with it, the head movement, the little moves of the shoulder, the hip, everything's going on. But they're still doing jab cross.
That's it. They're all doing
the guy at one end hopes to be as good as the guy at the other end one day, and everybody in between is helping the one above and below to get up there. That to me is the beauty of martial arts, and why we're all in it for a lifetime.
That's why we got to stay, because it is it's the beautiful game. We love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. Thank you, John, for your pearls of wisdom. Thank you for being on here. Hopefully you'll come back on again. I'm going to say thank you and play a little outro jingle.
Outro jingle.
Yeah, we're all professional here, John.
Thanks for listening, guys and gals. Remember to tell everyone to join in next time to the Old Fat Coach.